Derek, we're recording this right now in the middle of the Oscars. What was the best movies that you saw this year?
I didn't watch any of the Oscars. I don't even know what the nominees are for Best Picture. Like,
You haven't watched any of them?
probably not. I don't know what they are. Like,
What movies did you watch? Any other movies this year?
I mean, I watched like. See, here's the thing. This is my issue with the Oscars, is the Spider-Man movie, No Way Home, was like what the second or third highest grossing film of all time. And like I get that Oscars people want to, the Academy people want to be like, it's not film. It's just a movie. It's a comic book movie. It's not a film. Fine. Cool. I'm not going to watch the Oscars. Like, there's an element of like, I feel like Marvel movies should be, and yes, I'm a geek and yes, I'm a comic book nerd. I feel like Marvel movies should at least be nominated for like Best Picture, things like this. Some of the
To be fair, they are sometimes.
They get brought up for like technical stuff, like best
like
VFX.
Black Panther was a Best Picture nominee
Because it was a cultural touchstone moment. Like if they don't nominate that, like the Oscars gets burned down. Like,
yeah, I mean,
like
Batman's been nominated. Yeah,
Spider-Man was the best movie that I saw in the last year. Best movie, period. Like, it made me emotional in ways that I can't explain on camera.
Do you want to form an alliance with me?
Absolutely, I do.
Hello, YouTube. My name's Derek Peterson. I'm with Saturday Out West. That is Spenser Davis with Saturday Road, ACC site. I've got the Pac-12 site. This is the Alliance. Welcome back for another week. Spencer, you got two teams in the Final Four from the ACC. And not only do you have two teams in the Final Four, two teams that play each other in the Final Four. Like, this is like, I just want to spend the next 15 minutes talking about Duke, North Carolina, because this is the most insane thing to me. I found out that they had never met in the NCAA tournament before. And not only do we get the first meeting for them in an NCAA tournament in Coach K's final season, but it comes in the friggin' Final Four. This is awesome. How excited are you about this?
I am stoked. This started to become a real scenario in my head, I think, after both teams won their Sweet 16 games. But I really was not sure that it was going to happen, right? Because like you still have St. Peter's, who North Carolina ended up blowing out today, and you had a really tough Arkansas team that Duke was going to have to get past. But credit to them both. They are clearly playing the best basketball of their season. I mean, I was going to say especially Duke, but it's especially North Carolina. I mean, they're both peaking at the right time. They're both playing really intense basketball right now. And yeah, it's possibly Coach K's last game. How many North Carolina fans were dunking on Coach K after they ended his last regular season game with handing him a loss in Cameron Indoor Stadium? And now they have to face him in the Final Four. You almost couldn't script this.
It's going to be absolutely incredible. And if North Carolina wins this game, like, North Carolina fans, they just get a blank check to do whatever they want for the rest of time, right? Like, with regards to Duke, they get to say whatever they want. That's it.
We thought that they already had that, right? Because of the win at Cameron. Now it's almost like if Duke wins this, now Duke has the blank check. They're the only one with an NCAA tournament win over North Carolina. The stakes are insane. I cannot imagine being a Duke or a North Carolina fan this week. Like, if you had invested the last 10, 20, 30 years of your life into rooting for one of these teams, like, what is this next week like for you? It's overwhelming to even consider.
As a lifelong North Carolina fan for the last 48 hours, I would just like to say that I'm super stressed out about this because, you and I have talked about this, I think in this video space before. And I was like, I'm worried about Duke heading into the NCAA tournament because I don't know how they're going to handle pressure. Well, they handled pressure pretty good. Like, yeah. I mean, Michigan State was pretty tough. Arkansas was pretty tough. And now here they are with North Carolina. And you're like, well, is the pressure going to get to them with this potentially being, since they lost to North Carolina at home already, like, what are they going to come out with? And I'm not worried about them at all. I'm just like, you know what? Yep, this is a team of destiny. Paulo Banchero is going to hit a three at the end of the game right in your eye. And it's going to be that.
Yeah. I mean, credit to Duke. Specifically their players. I mean, they got punched in the mouth twice in the first week of March with losing to North Carolina at home. I believe that was on March 5th. And then the next week they get upset by Virginia Tech in the ACC title game. Two games that, like, you really need to win in a situation where your coach is retiring, right? I mean, there was a lot of pressure on those guys to perform. And, it didn't happen. And I'm not necessarily blaming it all on the Coach K farewell tour, But whatever it is you want to say, they didn't play very well in either of those games. And so the fact that, like you said, the Michigan State game, so intense for nearly the full 40 minutes. Texas Tech, they came out. Texas Tech was the team that everyone had penciled in. It became almost too trendy of an upset pick, right? And actually, it wouldn't even have been an upset pick because Texas Tech was favored in Vegas by 1 point in most books going into that game.
I picked them in my bracket.
A lot of people did. Like when on Selection Sunday we looked at that bracket, it's like, oh, Texas Tech, they're tough as hell. Like this is going to be a problem for Duke. But I mean, credit to Duke, man, and especially Paolo. That guy, basketball teams a lot of time they take on the personality of their best player, and Paolo has turned up the intensity over the last couple of weeks, and the rest of his teammates have responded in a big way. And Jeremy Roach too. I mean, Jeremy Roach was not great the other night, but I mean, he was awesome in the Sweet 16 game. He was awesome against Michigan State. Just a really, really solid performance for Duke to get to the Final Four with everything that's been going on.
So you have like all of that with Duke. You got them like just completely rising to the occasion when the pressure gets ratcheted up. And then you've got this North Carolina team over here. I mean, to kind of localize this for like me and my people, like UCLA in the beginning of the Sweet 16 game, like I thought like, okay, UCLA is not getting stops. North Carolina is just missing shots. But UCLA it seemed to generally be in control of that game, especially in the first half.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like, they're like, please stop playing Cody Riley, get him off the floor, please. But like UCLA is gonna have to lose this game. And then you get to the second half and Caleb Love is just like, okay, I'm gonna start hitting shots. Like he turned the sliders up on 2K all the way and he just started burying shots from everywhere. Like the thing with North Carolina, it kind of just feels like one of those dudes is just going to go absurd from the field, and they're going to be tough to beat because one of those guys just cannot miss a shot.
Yeah, I mean, look, it could be any of those guys, right? Like Brady Manick, RJ Davis, and Caleb Love are all capable of scoring 25, 30 points on an efficient night from the field. And by the way, all three of them have done that in this NCAA tournament in separate games. Yeah. So, and now it got a little risky there in the UCLA game because Caleb Love waited until the second half to play well, right? And then you've got Armando Bacot, who's their actual best player, who put up 20 and 22 tonight, tied the ACC record for double-doubles in a season with a guy named Tim Duncan. Have you heard of him?
No.
That guy's, you haven't heard of him? No. Bacot's unbelievable. I don't know that you want to run offense to him necessarily, but in North Carolina doesn't a lot of the time. But he takes his chances, man. And he's the most dependable, most consistent threat that they have. But they've got so many guys that are capable of contributing on that end. And it's what's gotten them to this point.
Well, I mean, Bacot's ability is sort of, because they entered, what was it, a 3-point game going into halftime against UCLA, despite RJ Davis and Caleb Love going 3 for 15 in the first half.
Yeah.
And they're only down 3 at halftime. And part of that was because they're just a really good offensive rebounding team. Because if you've got guys that are going to be chuckers, and maybe, it's not fair to categorize those guards as chuckers, but like guys that are going to get up their shots to try to get themselves going. If you got a guy like Bacot under the basket who's going to rebound really well, that feels like a pretty good, a pretty good fit, a pretty good one too.
And Brady Manick is also a good rebounder. He played a lot of center at Oklahoma over the last few years. And yeah, like you mentioned with Love and Davis, they take deep threes, and there is data out there that, at a certain point, the deeper the three, the more likely it is, the longer the rebound might be if you miss, and the more likely it is to get an offensive rebound and get another possession. And yeah, UNC just does a really good job of taking advantage of that. Now, how does that match up with a Duke team that is also very physical on the inside, right? You've got Mark Williams, you've got Paolo Banchero, and you've got Wendell Moore. All those guys are going to be able to rebound really well. Trevor Keels is another really good rebounder for a guard. Like I'm fascinated to see how that matchup plays out on both ends of the floor.
Can you think of another like sporting event that had this kind of like this kind of pre-game card? Like the billing for this game is just insane. The hype is going to be incredible. Like, is there a comparison here?
I'm actually writing about this for a new newsletter, Blue Chip Grit. Great little plug for that. I came up with a few examples. Can I run a few of them by you here?
Go for it.
The 2004 ALCS, Boston Red Sox against the Yankees. Of course, the Red Sox go down 3-0 with the curse of the Bambino hanging on their backs. The Red Sox come back, win the next 4 games. All right. Obviously a classic. Okay. 1987 NBA Finals, Lakers versus Celtics. This is the third finals matchup between Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. The Lakers win that one. The 2014 AFC Championship game, which is maybe like at this point we're starting to get into a bit of a reach here, right? But that's the third AFC title game matchup between Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. Tom Brady wins the grudge match there. The 2012 BCS National Championship game, Alabama defeats LSU 21-0. That was the first of these all SEC national title games that we've sort of become accustomed to, division rival. That was a big deal. And then I'll throw in a little global example here just for fun. The 2002 round of 16 match between the United States and Mexico in the World Cup. The U.S. defeats Mexico 2-0, 2-0. Those are the 5 sort of examples that I can think of. Does anything come to mind for you? And
one that I would suggest would be like maybe one of the Cleveland Cavaliers Golden State Warriors finals. Just because didn't we get them like 3 years in a row? Isn't that the matchup we got 3 years in a row?
That is a good example. It's not as regional, right? I mean, these teams are right down the road, and it's not just that it's not regional because like the Lakers and the Celtics aren't either, obviously, but there had been decades of a rivalry there, whereas the Cavaliers and the Warriors were more recent. But
I mean, I don't know, all of your examples are good. I don't think there's necessarily an equal with this thing.
No.
Because if you talk about, you talk about like how close the schools are, you talk about how much hatred there is between the two fan bases. You talk about just the Coach K part of this takes it to an entirely new level.
Yeah.
Like this is not like, like if the Cavs Warriors had like, they played like in the previous 5 NBA finals, and then whoever lost this 6th one, like was going to like their best player was going to be forced to retire. Like that's the situation we're talking about here. Like LeBron James has to retire if he loses. Like there's just the element of Coach K, like walking out the door if Duke loses is just insane. From a storytelling standpoint, from a narrative standpoint, it's incredible. I don't think there's an equal to this.
I mean, he's walking out the door regardless, right? I mean, unless you're a truther, who
right? But we're not
coming back. But
we're not forcing, we're not forcing like Hubert Davis doesn't have to leave his job. Right. Also, do you remember on this video, like mid-season, like we were talking about what happens if Hubert Davis keeps losing?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember that at all.
You didn't do it. It was me. I'll take the heat for it. It was me. I was like, we're at a weird place with North Carolina basketball. And then, you know what? Here we are now. Good for them.
He's the first college basketball coach to make the Final Four in his first season since Bill Guthridge, who took over for Dean Smith in North Carolina in the early 90s.
Wow. Look at you.
So there you go. Man.
Look at you. All the storylines. Good time to be an ACC writer, huh?
I'm going to be loving life for the next week. This is great. So of course, this pushes back our plans to talk football. Probably for the next 2 weeks. We'll probably end up.
We'll get there.
We'll probably end up recapping, previewing the national title in some respect next week, since there will be an ACC title or an ACC representative in the title game, whether it's Duke or North Carolina. Derek, who are you picking?
I just want a good game, man. I just want a good game. I lost 3 of my Final 4 teams before the Elite 8, so I just want a good game. That's all I want.
No, who do you think's going to win?
I'm not gonna answer that.
You're not gonna answer
that?
No, wow.
I just told you I lost 3 of my Final 4 teams before the Elite 8. Like we're not doing it. We're not doing it again. No.
We're not doing it again. Coward behavior.
Fine. You want to insult me? Fine. I will. I don't know. Because my brain was immediately like, pick North Carolina, dummy. Like you watch them, but then it's like, well, there's Duke. The team that wears blue.
Coward behavior. I reiterate. All right, I think that's.
Who are you picking? No. You don't get to come out of this without picking a team.
I was wondering if you're going to let me go back.
Yeah, who are you picking?
I think I reserve the right to change this throughout the week, but as of
Coward
right now,
behavior.
I think Duke is going to win. I think
Okay.
it's going to be Duke.
Okay. Way to hedge your bets. Coward behavior.
All right, that's going to do it for this week on the Alliance. Thank you guys for hanging out with us for another week. We will be back next Monday to talk about the national championship game that night. Thanks for tuning in, and you guys have a great week.